Hey everybody, we're going to have a really quick video today on the properties of algebra. We're going to just run through these real quickly, and these are the ones I'm going to ask you to focus on for your assignment today. So real quick, the properties we're going to focus on are going to be commutative, associative, and identity properties, and then we are also going to drop in the distributive property below this. So real quick, when we talk about commutative property, okay, when we think about community, we move around from community to community. So I always try to think about when we talk about commutative property, we're talking about moving things around, rearranging them, okay, or reordering them. So if we're talking about addition with the commutative property, we're talking about something as simple as saying 3 plus 4 is the same as 4 plus 3. Just that basic. Same thing with multiplication. If we are saying that 3 times 5 times 2 is the same as 2 times 3 times 5. I can rearrange things and change the order around, but I have not changed the property at all. I have just used the commutative property to rearrange the order of things. Okay, I've moved things around. Okay, but on the other hand, when we associate things together, okay, when we are doing the associative property, whether it is with addition or with multiplication, that's when we're talking about either grouping or associating, okay? So grouping or associating things together. So I'm just going to put the same thing down here, grouping or associating. So when we think about grouping, there's a nice little tool that we've always used when we group things together. We're talking about parentheses. So let's just use a real easy example. So if we said 2 plus the quantity of 3 plus 4, that would be the same thing because it's all addition as me saying the quantity of 2 plus 3 plus 4. All I've done is change which pair of these numbers I've grouped together, and that's going to be my associative property of addition. Same idea comes in if we're talking about the associative property of multiplication. If I said I'm going to do 2 times 3 and I'm going to then multiply it by 4, if it's all multiplication, that would give me the same quantity as if I were to say 2 times the quantity of 3 times 4. So again, all we're doing is grouping these things differently together, but because it's all one operation, okay, that's why we can say that this is the associative property of addition or the associative property of multiplication. Now, the last two ones that we have in here, or the last three rather, we have identity properties, okay? In order for me to keep the identity of the thing that I'm talking about, and I'm going to use addition, the only way to come out with what I started with and using addition is for me to add 0. So if I said 4 plus 0 will give me back 4, I want to add 0 to something and get back to what I started with. So the identity property of addition means that we're simply adding 0. However, the identity property of multiplication, if we're trying to get back to the identity, you're trying to get back to what is yourself. Well, this is going to be to multiply by 1. Because the only way for me to get back to what I started with is for me to multiply by 1. So if I said something like 7 times 1 is the only way I'm going to get back to 7. So when we talk about identity properties, the multiplicative identity is the 1. The addition identity is going to be 0. The only way to get back to yourself by adding is to add 0. Only way to get back to yourself by multiplying is to multiply by 1. Now, the last thing on this chart before we get to distributive property is the multiplication property of 0. Now, what this says is that said if the product is 0, okay, if the product is 0, one of the terms must have been 0. Must be 0. So if I were to say that A times B times C somehow equals 0, that meant either A was 0, B was 0, or C was 0. One of those three had to be 0 in order for me to multiply those together and get an end product of 0. So those are the basic properties. And the other property you're going to see a lot of in your homework today is the distributive property. And you've used the distributive property quite a bit over the past several years of mathematics. All this means is to multiply over addition. So let's just do a real quick example to show you what this looks like in case you forgot. Let's say we're going to take 2x and we're going to distribute that to 3y plus 4a. Let's just use some different variables here. Well, in order for me to distribute, I have to multiply each of these terms times the ones on the inside. So just a quick refresher, remember when you multiply variables, okay, you multiply the whole number coefficient, so 2 times 3, we get a 6. X and Y are different variables, so they just get written next to each other. And if I do 2x times 4a, coefficient times coefficient, 2 times 4, we've got 8. X times a, you can either write in alphabetical order, ax, or you can write xa. It makes absolutely no difference. So that's just kind of your short, quick crash course on the applications for your algebraic properties. That should give you enough to get through your homework assignment. Tonight's homework assignment, again, is only 5 questions long, so it should not take you very long to get done. Hopefully that'll give you a head start on that, and if you got any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching.